Next up, we continue with the same theme. So, robot framework browser. Let's welcome to the stage the team Tatu, Rene, Kerkko, and Mikko.
Yeah, thank you very much. Does it work? Hello. Yeah, now it's working. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I think the maybe two things I had. So that thing of a private library import, there is actually an issue in a GitHub of Robot Framework Core to maybe implement such a thing, which is kind of complicated about the namespaces. But maybe an intermediate step would be that we can kind of agree on a similar syntax. So if everyone will agree that eventually when it will be implemented in Robot Framework, it would be the specific syntax. And that specific syntax could already now be implemented by Fabio or Daniel for VS Code and PyCharm to just do not publish these keywords anymore to the user, independent if Robot Framework would use them. Just as an idea, so vote for that issue. The second thing is regarding the advanced workshop, we probably will have online workshops in the fall. So if you're here and you missed that great workshop, you may want to watch the Twitter channel of Robot Framework, and maybe we have a workshop then in fall. Okay, that's so the prefix. I will just make the short introduction, and we actually do not want to talk about browser actually. We want to talk about our team and our kind of team effort of building it, and like what we have learned about that. Because we have definitely made some kind of bad or wrong decisions in the past. Not just in that project, maybe also in other projects, like Tatu just apologized for execute JavaScript in Selenium library. But I mean, it works, right? But from that working situation, we actually also implemented an execute JavaScript, and it worked as well. But then we saw, maybe it's also not that perfect, and we deprecated it and created a new one. So we also learn from our mistakes. And I know it's always bad if the mothers say don't touch the heating plate or so until you touch it yourself. But we just want to try to tell you don't touch the heating plate now, and maybe you will believe us. But afterwards we can say told you so. Yeah. So okay, we want to make or give you some tools to the hand to maybe also don't repeat our own problems, or maybe make some good decisions we make. And what we will do, so Mikko will first talk about setting up a project, and setting up a project is not like how you do it on GitHub, but maybe like what checklists you want to follow, and maybe how to build a team or something like this. So important things about that directly right at the beginning, so you don't have to fix them in the end. Then Kerkko will say a little bit about how we ensure our code quality. And last but not least, Tatu will talk about the Python libcore, which is something to kind of implement easily greater or bigger libraries like those libraries are with more than 100 keywords, and how you maintain that code.
All right. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. So first thing, Samuel's talk, we had a question about the browser library name, right? And it's being a bit of a bad decision. So Janne Härkönen, can you raise up a bit? So please, yes. Janne was part of the team at the beginning, and he's actually like most likely currently doing Robot Framework. What's the number now? 6.1 there while I'm talking here. So he's one of the heroes behind the tool. And what else? Yes. So how to get these heroes working for you and set up a project, especially an open source project, is pretty well complicated problem, in my opinion, and I think we kind of made it quite good at the browser library. It was like the first open source project for me where we actually have a team of people, and it is a team effort. And some of the key ingredients behind that was that we had this kind of a team agreement of things that we will do. And then, well, you guys will talk more about this. We have those automated checks on development machines and integration service. So this kind of automation in place. And also like, well, the fourth and most likely the one that always has to be there to make the project work is that we had like amazing people that we can discuss with about the tool that we're building for. Yeah. So about the team agreement. So we actually have a team agreement that is in GitHub. I don't have it on the slides to show, but I'll just read you what we are agreeing about. So for the core team members of robotframework browser library, we have an agreement that the core team membership gives a team member rights to release new versions of robotframework browser. So the main point of the agreement is to actually enable people's work. It's not to restrict anyone. And we have some rules there, very minimal ones. So we have this, that default method of decision making is consent. This means that in the absence of objections, a decision is made. Any one of the core team member can raise an objection. And that's basically it. That's what we agreed. So we agreed to try to enable people's working together and getting their project ongoing as long as possible. And who here has, in a way or another, participated in the Robot Framework browser project? As a user, or as a developer, or made an issue, or in Slack, or anything? So I can't see really, which makes this easy. Yeah. All right, hey, give yourself like a hand. Thank you. So that's amazing. For the core team is basically we three and Rene now. Janne used to be there, but now he's working on other projects. And those are the people who kind of like gather the whole thing together and release new projects, new versions of that. And if you want to make this kind of team agreement, it's like basically good to have there the team members, what rights that your agreement gives those people, so they actually understand what they can do and enable that work, and if there's any obligations. In our case, the obligations are quite non-existing because we're kind of like, it's a hobby to many of the people. And that's why we need to focus on keeping it going as a hobby. That's about the team agreement. And then one thing I would like to point out was the automation systems. But related to that, I want to point out what continuous integration actually means, because CI systems is a word like agile, but it still can be used. So continuous integration actually means what Martin Fowler says here. So continuous integration is a software development practice where members of a team integrate their work frequently. Usually each person integrates at least daily, leading to multiple integrations per day. So whenever you see the CI as anywhere, that is what it actually means. Just to clarify that, because it seems that many times that is forgotten. Our basic principle in the project was that if you want to enforce any kind of policies, then that enforcement should be automated. And Kerkko and Tatu will, especially Kerkko, will talk about more about that automation of those policies. But basic setup, like technically you will need to have a version control system, server that hosts that is very, very good to have. So GitHub, GitLab, whatever. Automated policy checks running on the server side. Awesome thing. So GitHub Actions, or if you're using Jenkins, or I think GitLab has also capabilities of running something. And also we have like automated policy checks running on machines of developers. So whenever a commit is made, we have some pre-commit hook running there, and also when you push your changes to the server, we have also checks and policies that are checked there. And we also gradually create an automated test harness to protect our work. The last bit, the feedback channels. So currently in the browser project or Robot Framework Browser Library project, we've established a Slack channel, but if you're doing your thing, maybe Teams channel might be in your organization a good idea or something like that. But we have a like direct connection with the end users, and they can, for example, complain that the Selenium library keywords are a bit different from browser library keywords. And we used to, at release at one point, have demo sessions, and from time to time, I think some people demo things to each other. One really excellent thing to do, which might seem like someone is actually abusing you, is to help the users with their problems. So with that, you can get a lot of information and eat your own dog food. So as long as it's not like too much of abuse of my skills, it's nice that users ask some help. Yeah, like one thing to understand is when you're doing development work, the most impactful communication channel is actually to release your changes, and you need to remember to do this. Like, don't hold back. And I try to keep this idea of good enough for now and safe enough to try in my back of my mind always, that because you can always polish it to be more perfect and delay and nothing ever goes to production. So try to get it to this level of good enough for now and safe enough to try. And yeah, when you release, accidents will eventually sometimes happen, so be there and monitor the feedback that you will get. All right. Yes, I will fade away now, and I think it's Kerkko's turn.
Yeah. So I'll be talking a bit about ensuring code quality when we're writing robot framework libraries, and in general, how to keep the code in check. So there's going to be around 3 parts, one about short part about types, or long part, then linting and formatting, so the automatic rules enforcement that Mikko earlier mentioned, and then we're going to talk a bit about semantic versioning and deprecations. So using types, so I guess like as robot framework developers, as Python developers, there may be many cases where we're thinking that types are stupid, I don't need them because the language is dynamic, but actually, at least what I have observed is that robot framework actually makes, when you're developing libraries for it, using types very easy and useful. So one thing that you can do is that because you have a robot framework provides automatic conversions for Python types, a real big bunch of them. So newer versions like 6.0, they auto-convert lists, dicts, their contents, dates, paths, all sorts of like sort of complicated inputs. And the good thing with the automatic conversion is that along with converting the type, so you can then use it in the library code easily, you also validate it. So if the list is, for example, invalid, or if you have a type signature for a list of ints and then there are wrong types of inputs, then you can get a type error early. And another thing is that you can document valid inputs using types. I'll show this a bit more in the next slide. Then how does it benefit the library developer? So, well, the biggest benefit is these 2 I have observed. So one is finding bugs. So you find things like attribute errors earlier. If you're calling an object, the type conversion will help you validate that it's the correct type, or at least your IDE can complain if you're calling wrong type of objects, even when the conversion is not part of it. And also you can make nonce very explicit in code. So you can have if you have a function that takes an argument which you are using methods for, then when you make it optional, the type checker you're using will help you ensure that you're actually checking that it's not none when you're using your methods on it that require non-none inputs. And of course, with types, you usually often get better autocomplete. So then you can autofill the methods for the type. You can, LSP can help you find all sorts of features that you didn't know even existed for a class. And so, of course, like many of the types are high value, but specifically some things that I would like say everybody developing robot libraries could use more would be enums, which help you validate things like specific strings. You can also use literals, but that requires you to use a pretty new Python version and also a newer robot framework version. So literals are not that well supported, for example, in Python 3.6, but in 3.9 onwards they are well supported, and 3.7 and 3.8 they are somewhat supported. So you can use enums to ensure things like that a string is one of a specific set of values. Then with the dicts and lists, they're useful because you can also map the inputs contents, so you can ensure that the dict and list have correct inputs. And type dictionaries is then the advanced form of dicts, which you can basically, for example, use to write schemas for your dicts. So you can say that this dict, it must have keys, user and key password. And then the type conversion will actually check that those exist, or at least remind you to check that. So this is another of the end user benefits. So when you're documenting your input, for example, this is this mouse button enum that's on the right side here is one of the argument types for the click keyword in browser library. So robot framework documentation auto-generates this list of allowed values for it. So when the user clicks the argument type, they can easily see that this mouse button can only have the values left, middle, and right. It also lists converted types, which is basically it tells you what sort of type you can give that will get auto-converted. So you can't give an int, and like in some libraries, you could give maybe mouse buttons as 0, 1, or 2, but browser library doesn't support it. You can only give it as a string or as an instance of the enum. And then with the type, you can also, if you're like, for example, you're looking for all the keywords in browser library that affect, that do anything related to clicking, you can click the mouse button type in the click keyword, and then you can check the usages at the bottom of the type hint. And also you can write custom documentation for the type. So if you have like an advanced object type and you write a custom robot framework input argument converter for it, you can then also write a documentation for it that explains why it is so complicated. So then, the another tool for ensuring code quality is linting and formatting. In Python, we lint with Flake 8 and Flake 8 bugbear. Flake 8 is basically, it uses the Python's own style guide for Python development, and then Flake 8 bugbear tries to find common bugs. For example, lists that are empty that shouldn't be empty, or things like that. For type checks, we use MyPy, but for example, if you're using VS Code for development and you haven't configured it, actually behind the scenes, it's using Pylance or Pyrite, which is a pretty intelligent type checker that also can like do type inference. So you can do stuff like, even if only half of your code base is typed, Pyrite can give you very good results for your checks. MyPy will give a bit ugly results if only half of your code base is typed. For formatting, we use Black and isort. Black basically formats for line length and spacing and paragraph breaks or like new lines, and isort sorts imports. These are, I think, very helpful because it deletes from your team problems like formatting discussions. You don't need to discuss line lengths anymore. Just leave it to the formatter and it will take care of it. And for robot framework formatting, we use the tidy, and for robot framework linting, you can use RoboCop, but actually currently at browser we're not running RoboCop. Probably take a look at that. So then the next thing, that this is sort of a thing that massively affects the user experience, but it also sort of can restrict development, is the fact that you can use semantic versioning and make deprecations less painful to users, so and dropping of features. So semantic versioning is the common standard for versioning, where you have a major, minor, and patch version. And you can also have dash something in the behind, for example, for your beta releases. And then when you do breaking changes, you will bump the major. When you do functionality adding, you will bump the minor. And for just bug fixes or small changes like documentation change, you bump the patch version. And then use deprecations to before you are releasing a major update to mark for the users that which features are going to change or remove. And remember to listen to user feedback during those. But it's also helpful to sometimes drop features that, for example, have make the library more confusing to use. For example, we have dropped the execute JavaScript from browser library in favor of the evaluate JavaScript to make it nicer to use. Yeah, I think that's everything for now.
Hear me? Yeah, it's on. Hi, I'm Tatu Alta. And like René said, I'm here to talk about how to build bigger libraries, like Selenium or browser library. And if you want to build bigger library that has complex logic or lots of keywords, you want to use the dynamic library API. But why you want to use it? You want to use it because you have more control. There's an API specification in the Robot Framework user guides, but it basically says that you have to do all those things. But it gives you more control. For example, the browser library run on failure functionality is built on the run keyword API. Whenever Robot Framework wants to run a keyword from the browser library, it calls that API. And then we run the method underneath it. And if that method raises an exception, we suppress the exception, we run the run on failure keyword and re-raise the exception. Simple, easy, single point of things to do. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. Following the dynamic specification fully is actually quite a lot of work. You have to write a lot of code to make it working. To be fair, you only need those two methods, run keyword and get keyword names, but then you don't get a good experience. You're lacking documentation, arguments, and you don't get good keyword documentation or good ID experience. So, Python libcore to rescue. It has a simple API. You have to actually do 3 different things. You have to use the keyword decorator to mark which methods in your classes are keyword. Your library main class must inherit the dynamic core, which comes out of the PLC. And you have to provide a list of class instances to the dynamic core so you can resolve the keywords. But that's only the 3 things you have to do. 3 things only, pretty simple. So what does it mean in practice? Here's an example of the keyword class. It's pretty loaded, but let's go through. You import the keyword decorator, of course. It's a class doing a thing, and then you mark your methods with the keyword decorator that are actually keywords. And the rest of the stuff is just simple Python code, same as in the static library. This is different. This is not a keyword because it's not marked as a keyword decorator, but in the static library you couldn't have. That method would be also a keyword. And you can have multiple classes, as usual. Then in your library main class, you do this. It's again loaded, but let's go through it. It has an import for the dynamic core. You import also the classes that implement your keywords. You inherit the dynamic core. And finally, you create a list of class instances and feed it to the dynamic core. And that's it. That's pretty simple. So, and then it works. You import the library normally. You don't have to do anything extra in the Robot Framework test, and stuff works out of the box. So, if you think about Zen of Python, simple is better than complex. PLC, Python libcore provides an easy interface for you to use the dynamic library API. And because you have to create classes, automatically also create namespaces your stuff. For example, in the browser library, there's a cookie class that implements only the cookie stuff. And namespaces are a honking great idea. So, if you think Zen of the PLC, Python libcore is a honking great idea. Let's use it more. And questions? Or René, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to wrap up it a little bit. Thank you, Tatu. Just to give some examples. For example, this situation with the iframes. Actually, it was not Samuel that brought me the idea of maybe implementing this set selector prefix. But recently, after I implemented that, he kind of complained, or actually no, I saw the talk proposal about that. So yeah, it was good, but the iframe thing is a little bit more. I think he changed actually the talk because it was different before the idea. Yeah, but I had other discussions with users of browser library, and they had kind of these needs with a iframe, and we implemented that. And same happens with many other keywords that we implement because people give us feedback or people ask questions. Recently, we had someone who liked to get the style from a pseudo element, so the colon after thing, which is not supported yet. But now we have an idea what we can implement next. And sometimes it's so that kind of, I don't know, I'm sitting in a plane or beam abroad or something like this and think, okay, let's code something, and I don't have a good idea what to do. Once we have good ideas or your needs, we can also implement those. And same with the deprecation, sometimes we have bad ideas and we have to get rid of them. And for example, we recently released 15.0, and the 15.0 kind of threw out all the deprecations that were in there for over half a year, like execute JavaScript, like direct assertion or direct assignment of values to secrets and so on. So they are now out. Please try the 15 or 15.1 is now out. So yesterday in the sprints, we implemented some other features with some users. And you, by the way, also see the wall of honors on our GitHub repository. So every time you propose an issue and it's good, or you test something for us, or you make a proposal for some documentation change, you also will be listed there in the wall of honors. And you can also see that the browser library is not made by us 4 or so, or not even by us 5. Yeah? You see all the people who contributed, who brought new ideas, who brought maybe pull requests, maybe just bugs, and reported them properly so that we can fix them. So please engage also the people in the internet, not just kind of complain that library is shitty or it's slow and then go away to another one. Maybe change your opinion a little bit more polite and then tell it, and maybe offer some help, or hey, I have experienced some bugs. So only if you report, if you communicate, people can improve. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we are open for questions.
Hello. Yeah, so I have a question to anyone who can answer. Maybe Kirko. Do you, and this is based on what I talked to Israel and Aviv. I don't know if you're still in the audience. Do you have any like code security practices or strategies that you guys follow for browser library?
Well, for like dependency security, we use pretty frequent dependable settings to get like minor and patch updates, and we'll also major update PRs to our repo automatically and then review them manually. And for other security stuff, we use the GitHub Security Advisories feature. But beyond that, I don't think we have like any other security scanning.
Yeah. Oh. And I think in general about security concerns, I mean, you do npm install with, I don't know, import stuff from internet, right? So it's always, so when you do test automation, please always consider you just download hell of a lot of million lines of code from some random dude or woman or something, and it's still, the good thing, it's a testing system. It does not run when you do not run it, but it's still more or less you have no clue what's in there.
There is some security because we do read other people PRs and contribute. So in that save, we don't allow stupid code in, but
we have no clue what in our dependencies.
Yeah, dependencies are clueless.
More questions?
There's one
there.
Or where?
The other side.
Please wave. Or stand
Please
up,
wave
maybe.
Or stand. Yeah, back there.
Where it goes? There you are. Yes. I got to catch it now. Hello, this is Anu. Thanks a lot for answering the questions users send on Robot Framework's browser library Slack. It's really nice. I'm interested where you draw the line, because Kerkko mentioned that you help users with their concrete problems, and you have to draw the line somewhere. How do you know how much you should help? How do you draw the line?
Me?
Anyone?
Yeah, like it depends. Like who
So I mean,
who wants to?
typically, I draw the line where the users draw the line. So if somebody comes in and say, "Hey, I'm new to browser, I need help," and I said, "Okay, I'm sorry." So that's sad, but where do you need help? So I mean, when people come with a concrete issue and a concrete question, say, "I have that rich text editor," and that's kind of a pain in the and I don't get the elements inside. By the way, I've seen these kind of rich text editors, and they are somehow not working. Other iframes are work flawlessly. Then you have a concrete problem. With a concrete problem, it's typically pretty easy to help. So once I find time, may it be in the restroom, may it be, I don't know, not actually under the shower, but when I have my mobile phone, I can get an idea, I bring that post. So stuff that is easy to answer is typically stuff that is well described the problem. The other thing is I typically draw the line there where the time is out. So once it's kind of going to consultancy, then I would just say, so hey, here's our business card, or maybe you ask someone to implement your tests, don't ask us. But actually, I think our Slack community and also the forum is super cool. And there are very, very rare cases where you see, okay, that's a weird question. But it's typically people are also helping each other. So I know that Tatu is super active, I answer sometimes, but most of the times the questions are answered by the people. So grooming the people together, bring them or give them a marketplace to discuss these things and help each other. Yeah.
It is a timing issue. Like, if I have a spot now that I can answer that question right now, most likely I will do it, because it also depends that is it an interesting question, well defined, then it's easy to answer and it doesn't take a lot of effort. And I have also sit in the other fence of the table. I was a junior once, long time ago, unfortunately, but I was, and I remember how difficult or horrifying it was to ask those questions which I felt were stupid and everybody else know. So I try to be polite or friendly in that manner, that I don't punish the person. I try to be helpful, but it's a timing issue. If I have work and I'm coding, I have no time. If my kids are shouting, I have no time. But if I'm alone in the toilet, yeah, then I have time.
So, no books today, just a notebook. So. No magazines. But maybe something like 3 things. So the very first thing is, don't be afraid to ask the question. That's the most important thing. Ask the question, not go to Slack and search for something. I do it same on Stack Overflow, right? You search for the question you have, damn, you don't find it, so you figure it out yourself. Just ask it. And I think that with Slack, once you're there, it's pretty low barrier to ask it. Just write it and see what happens. Don't write it in every channel, by the way. The second question is, there are no dumb questions. Yeah, so don't think about, okay, maybe this is too dumb. Maybe I don't know, they will make fun of me. No, we have a super cool community, so ask the question. And the third, and this is more a wish from my side, try to describe the question as good as possible, and don't give us, I don't know, 1 kilometer line between the two, space between the 2 lines to read all the stuff between them. So just write it, what you mean.
Well, one thing is also that some, like the responsibility of actually solving the problem is on the users or the one who asks it. And sometimes I actually see questions where the responsibility is kind of like handed over, and those are the ones that are not going to get answers. So that's a thing to keep in mind when asking, although there's no dumb questions.
Let's take one more question there.
Here in the front.
Yeah,
Okay.
here.
In the middle. So there are no dumb questions, but there are too long answers. So
Yes, there is.
or too long questions.
What do you mean? Let's discuss that out before we have the next question.
Yes.
Hello, Matteo.
Can you hear me?
No.
No.
Maybe closer.
Just proceed.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, so you said that you have an agreement between you, how you work, So I don't know if you had such situation or not, but how do you or how would you deal with a situation when, let's say, someone under-delivers or don't have time? Because you said that you don't have any obligations to the project, so maybe you're just proactive, all guys, and you don't have these problems, but how would you approach it?
So in the team agreement, we have well, there's really no, I think, performance like minimum, but we have like defined that like anybody can leave the team if they want to, and also that so this is more for the case if somebody starts like being evil, to users or like doing stupid stuff, then we have also a part where the other team members can vote with consensus to remove a member. But there's really no, because it's an open source work and we like some of us have work time to do it, some of us don't. There's really like no minimum.
Yeah, and as you may see, if you look the GitHub commits, I think Kerko, last rough thing you have done is the new persistent context, last RoboCon sprints, right? Afterwards, have barely time. I think Mikko, you are also super busy, and that's not an insult now. So they were just super busy, and Tato and me as well. But we had found some time, and that's the great thing with having a team effort. Yeah, I mean you know that yourself. You also partially teamed up, and sometimes the other one has no time. And
Usually it's me.
Huh?
Usually it's me.
Yeah, yeah, and then okay, then it's on you. So that's for us. It's important, not blaming the other one. And the other thing, what we have not yet said, we have this not always consensus. So sometimes Mikko has stupid ideas, and then because I have better ones, we start discussing.
How does it go again?
And then, because we cannot find a level to communicate, we would vote. And there we implemented something like we make like GitHub commits with votings for all four, and the majority wins. So that's just the idea. And I think that is also something important, because conflicts can happen. And you should have a solution for a conflict beforehand, before it starts in insults and in a real kind of angriness and something like this. So just lay a baseline of conflict resolution. And we still can stand here. So.
We voted once, right?
Yeah, I think we voted once.
Yep.
And
did I win?
I don't think.
All right, let's continue at the speakers' corners. Thank you, Tatu, Mikko, Kerkko, and Rene.
Thank you.
Give a warm hand. So more questions at the speakers' corner, or you can ask anything from them on Slack. They will answer from the toilet.